The first democracy wasn't created to give everyone a voice. It was created to control power. That decision, who counted and who never would, shaped politics, privilege, and inequality for more than 2,000 years. This was about control, and it happened in one place, Athens. On the rocky hills beneath the Acropolis, the world's first democracy took shape, not as an experiment in equality, but as a system engineered to decide who belonged inside power and who would remain permanently outside it. Today, democracy is treated as civilization's moral achievement, a clean break from kings, tyrants, and inherited rule, a moral upgrade in human history. We tell a simple story. Once, power belonged to one man. Then, in ancient Greece, it finally moved to the people. It is a comforting story. It suggests progress was inevitable. That equality was always the destination, but history is rarely that generous. To understand what democracy actually was, we have to abandon the myth and step into the city where it was invented, not as an idea, but as a lived system. It is the late 5th century BCE. The place is Athens, not a nation, not an empire, yet. A dense, restless city carved into stone and dust, overlooking the Aegean Sea. Salt hangs in the air, smoke rises from hearth fires, merchants shout in crowded markets, ships creak in the harbor below. Nearly 300,000 people live here. Farmers, craftsmen, slaves, women, foreign laborers. Only a fraction of them matter. Every few weeks, thousands of men walk up a low hill west of the Acropolis. Their sandals scrape against limestone. The climb is steep. The sun is unforgiving. They arrive early. They argue loudly. They jostle for space. There are no marble seats, no palace walls, no guardrails. This is the assembly. Here decisions are made by raised hands. War, peace, taxes, exile, execution, power in its rawest, most immediate form. But before we talk about who ruled Athens, we have to confront a harder truth. Most people were never allowed anywhere near this hill. The system called itself democratia, power of the people, but the people did not mean everyone. To count, you had to be male, free, born to Athenian parents, old enough to fight and die for the city. If you met those conditions, you were a citizen. If you didn't, you were nothing politically. Women lived their entire lives under laws they could not influence. Slaves worked the fields, the homes, the mines, especially the silver mines that funded Athenian power. Foreign residents paid taxes, fought in wars, and remained outsiders forever. They built the city, they sustained it, they defended it, they never governed it. Out of hundreds of thousands of people living in Athens, only about 30 to 40,000 could participate. Most people never entered the room. Citizens did not elect representatives to speak for them. They governed directly. Offices were assigned by lottery, not because it was fair, but because it prevented elites from dominating positions year after year. Councils were filled by chance. Courts were enormous, sometimes hundreds of jurors packed tightly together, listening to arguments that could decide a life before sunset. This was not democracy as protection from the crowd. It was the crowd, loud, emotional, persuasive, unstable, power without safety nets. A single speech could shift the city's future. A talented speaker could turn fear into consensus. A rumor could harden into policy. Sometimes Athens changed direction in a single afternoon, and sometimes democracy devoured its own. It is tempting to say Athens failed to live up to democratic ideals, but that assumes equality was ever the goal. It wasn't. The system worked exactly as intended. Citizenship was exclusive because power was scarce. If everyone could vote, the citizen class would lose control over land, labor, wealth, and law. Democracy did not challenge hierarchy. It reorganized it. Slavery made democracy possible. While citizens debated policy under the open sky, enslaved people swung picks deep underground, pulling silver from the earth. While citizens argued about freedom, enslaved women cooked meals and raised children who were not their own. While men voted, women kept households alive with no legal voice and no political existence. This was a closed system. Athens did not invent democracy out of idealism. It invented it out of fear. Before democracy, power kept collapsing into kings, aristocrats, and tyrants. Each collapse brought bloodshed, Each concentration of power pushed the city closer to civil war. Reformers did not ask who deserved power. They asked how to stop the cycle, how to keep elites from tearing the city apart, how to give enough people a stake so rebellion became unlikely. By spreading power among citizens, Athens weakened elite domination and stabilized the state. Democracy as damage control. Give citizens ownership, and they will defend the system. Give them a voice, and they will fight for the city that grants it. Democracy was not a promise of equality. It was a strategy for survival. But the contradictions were everywhere. Athens celebrated free speech, the right to speak openly in public. Any citizen could stand and address the assembly. Yet that same assembly practiced exile by popular vote. Once a year, citizens scratched names onto pottery shards. If enough names matched, one man disappeared from the city for 10 years. No crime required, no trial, no appeal. Fear was enough. Generals who had won wars, politicians who had once been cheered, men who had shaped the city's destiny, gone. Even Socrates, the philosopher now synonymous with inquiry, was condemned by a democratic jury, not by a king, not by a tyrant, by the people. When the crowd judges. Democracy protected Athens from rulers above it. It did not protect individuals from the majority below. Participation was not symbolic. Citizens voted for wars they would personally fight, taxes they would personally pay, punishments they might one day face. Every decision carried risk. Every vote left fingerprints. This was not abstract governance. It was intimate, immediate, unforgiving. So why do we remember Athens as the birthplace of freedom? Because later societies needed the origin story. Roman writers admired Greek political experimentation. Enlightenment thinkers borrowed the language while ignoring the exclusions. Modern states inherited the word and reshaped its meaning. Over time, the boundaries faded from memory. The idea survived. The idea outlived the reality. We remember raised hands. We forget who was forbidden to raise them. Athenian democracy eventually collapsed, strained by war, empire, and internal division. But its legacy endured, not as a blueprint, as a warning, that democracy does not automatically produce equality, that systems reflect the interests of those who design them, that power, once distributed, is still carefully guarded. The first democracy wasn't democratic at all. It was selective, conditional, engineered to protect those already inside the circle. Athens proved something revolutionary, that ordinary people, some ordinary people, could rule themselves. But it also revealed a truth that still echoes across history. Power defines belonging, exclusion shapes outcomes, and democracy from the very beginning carried consequences. Because it has never only been about voting, it has always been about who counts and who never did. If you want more stories about how power shapes history, subscribe to Imperora.